Small towns, places where everyone knows your name, where life moves slower, safer, and simpler, or so we're led to believe. But in the shadows of these quiet streets and friendly smiles, something darker sometimes festers. These aren't famous murders. You won't find them in the tabloids or true crime TV specials. These are the forgotten nightmares, the ones whispered about in diners, the ones that made entire communities lock their doors for the first time. Tonight we bring you 3 of the most disturbing small-town murders you've never heard of, each one dripping with mystery, fear, and a silence that still hangs over the towns where they happened. Case 1. Ken McElroy, Skidmore, Missouri. Skidmore, Missouri, a town of fewer than 500 people. One main street, a handful of stores, and a sense of isolation surrounded by endless cornfields. But from the 1960s through the early 1980s, Skidmore was ruled, not by law, but by fear. And that fear had a name. Ken Rex McElroy. McElroy wasn't just your average small-town troublemaker, he was a full-blown menace. Known for stealing livestock, harassing teenagers, intimidating witnesses, and reportedly raping underage girls, McElroy operated with near-total impunity. Despite being indicted more than 20 times for crimes ranging from theft to assault with a deadly weapon, he managed to avoid conviction again and again, thanks to high-priced attorneys and a community too scared to speak up. He once shot a local farmer in the stomach over a disagreement about land. He brutally assaulted a man with a shotgun in front of witnesses. But every time he was arrested, his victims suddenly grew quiet. No one wanted to be next on his list. The town reached a boiling point in 1980 when McElroy shot 70-year-old grocer Ernest Bowenkamp in the neck. The man had confronted McElroy's daughter for stealing candy. The community was outraged. But once again, McElroy was released on bail. Then came July 10, 1981. That morning, Ken McElroy sat in his pickup truck outside the local tavern, puffing on a cigarette, his young wife Trina beside him. Roughly 45 townspeople gathered nearby. No one said a word. Then came the sound of a gunshot, then another, then a volley of bullets. McElroy slumped forward, dead. Glass shattered, blood sprayed across the dashboard. Trina screamed that she saw the shooter. But when police arrived, no one talked, not one person. The FBI investigated, dozens were questioned. But to this day, no arrests have ever been made. In the end, Skidmore said nothing. It was the ultimate act of collective justice, or collective guilt. McElroy's death wasn't just the end of a man, it was the erasure of a monster the law couldn't touch. And now when you ask about it in Skidmore, you're met with silence. Not denial, not surprise, just silence. Case 2. Faith Hedgepeth, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Faith Hedgepeth was bright, ambitious, and beloved. A proud member of the Hallowasaponi Native American tribe, she had dreams of becoming a doctor or lawyer. At just 19 years old, she was already a student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, carrying the hopes of her family and community on her shoulders. On September 7, 2012, Faith's roommate Karina returned to their off-campus apartment after spending the night elsewhere. She found Faith in her bedroom, partially nude, covered with a blanket. Blood soaked the sheets, her head had been bludgeoned, and near the body was a handwritten note that read, "I'm not stupid, bitch, jealous." The scene was brutal, but there were no signs of forced entry, no screaming, no struggle heard by neighbors. The weapon, a rum bottle, later found shattered. Investigators quickly found DNA on the murder weapon and elsewhere in the apartment, but the match didn't hit any databases. It sat cold. Faith's last known movements were normal. She had gone to a nightclub with Karina. They returned home just before 3 a.m. Texts sent from her phone stopped shortly after. Surveillance footage captured her hours earlier, laughing and dancing. Nothing seemed off. Over the years, attention turned toward Karina's ex-boyfriend, who had a history of violence. But no charges were ever filed. Her family pressed for answers. Police released a strange voicemail that Faith had supposedly recorded that night. Muffled screams, thumping, voices arguing in the background. But its authenticity remains debated. For 9 long years, nothing happened. Then, in 2021, a breakthrough DNA from the crime scene matched 28-year-old Miguel Salguero Olivares. He had no prior convictions, no clear link to Faith, no reason to be in that apartment, at least none that the public knows. The motive remains unclear. Why Faith? Why that night? Was she targeted or just in the wrong place at the wrong time? The arrest brought some closure, but many believe the story isn't over. Faith's diary, the chilling note, the voicemail, too many pieces are still missing. Case 3. Cindy James, Richmond, British Columbia. From 1982 to 1989, Cindy James reported more than 100 incidents of harassment. She was stalked, threatened, her home broken into, her phone lines cut. Dead animals were left as warnings. And still, no one truly believed her. Cindy was a nurse, recently divorced, trying to rebuild her life, but she insisted someone wanted her dead. Friends found her bruised and terrified. She was hospitalized multiple times. Once, she was found with nylon stockings tied tightly around her neck, barely conscious. Yet the police couldn't or wouldn't help. There was little physical evidence. And slowly, suspicions turned. Was Cindy faking it? Was this a cry for attention? But Cindy's mental state began to unravel. Or maybe it was being unraveled for her. In May 1989, she disappeared. Her car was found abandoned. Inside were her purse and groceries, still cold, still fresh. 2 weeks later, her body was discovered in the yard of an abandoned house. Her hands and feet bound behind her. A lethal dose of morphine in her system. The coroner's ruling, undetermined. Police said it could be suicide, even suggesting she tied herself up after injecting the drugs. But how does someone do that alone? Friends and family were adamant. Cindy was murdered, possibly by someone she had feared all along. Someone close. Perhaps someone watching every report she made, laughing as authorities shrugged it off. Cindy's case remains unsolved, her cries for help unanswered. And her story stands as one of Canada's most chilling warnings about what happens when victims are ignored until it's too late. Ken McElroy, Faith Hedgepeth, Cindy James, 3 names, 3 lives erased in violence, 3 towns forever stained by silence. These aren't just murder cases. They're questions, left to rot in files, in memories, in whispers behind locked doors. Subscribe now for more disturbing real-life stories. And remember, in the quietest towns, the loudest horrors are the ones never spoken aloud.